like if you're looking at an apartment building and it rents for $700 to $800 a month, What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Spill the Beans. Today I'm sitting down with my buddy Dan Rivers. He's a local Charleston investor and entrepreneur. Left his job, got into some coaching through some other people who I've actually been on here, and got trained up on how to scale his real estate business. And has been doing amazing things. Just bought a really cool co-working space that's kind of office with a warehouse in the back, and a good collaborative space where entrepreneurs can get together, and creates tons of opportunity for him and the other people who are there. So super excited to be sitting down with him. He's got a lot of great intel and a lot of great insights on building a business and going through that process of doing hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars, and kind of we'll be talking about some of the bottlenecks faced during that process. So check it out. Spill the beans. Dan Rivers.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to Spill the Beans, bro. How you doing?
Thanks, man. Good, you?
Good. Doing awesome. A beautiful day, downtown Charleston, hanging out, filming some content, man.
Nice, yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, dude. All right, so gave a brief introduction before this to the listeners, but give me your story, dude. Like, what led you up to this point in time in business? And then we talk about what you got going on right now. And then I want to talk a little bit about where you see yourself going over the course of the next 24 months or so.
Gotcha.
So give me the back of the story.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick background. I'm from Massachusetts, Brockton, Massachusetts, about 20 miles south of Boston. I got into business in around 2004 when I moved down to Tampa. Ended up managing high-level like HOAs and condominiums. Got into property management down there. Managed about 16, 20 high-level buildings at a time for about 10 years.
All right. Condominiums?
Condominiums, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. A lot of them are like...
Did you manage the HOAs?
The HOAs, yeah. So managing apartments is one thing. Managing HOAs, because now the people own that asset.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be interesting. We'll put it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Tell me about that. Give me a little bit of background, because that's not something we've ever talked about.
Okay.
I want to know, and I own 2 complexes, one of which, like, they're townhome. It's a townhome development.
Yep.
I own 83 out of 120 townhomes, so I have the majority in that one.
Yep.
But I don't own the HOA. Somebody else owns it, and we're thinking about taking it over. And then the other one, I want to say it's like I own 82 out of 240, so I don't have a majority in that one, and I don't really like the manager in that one. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we navigate this? Do we try to take it over? Do we vote ourselves onto the board? Like, what do we end up doing? So give me some feedback on that.
Yeah. So, well, the way it usually works is,
First of all, is there money in HOA management?
Oh, not a lot.
Not a lot, especially for the headache.
Absolutely, yeah.
Got it.
That's the problem, is a lot of the management companies, where they make their money is they do the HOA management, but then they have a maintenance division. So you might have maintenance and cleaners, and now you could take over the subcontractors. Exactly. Yeah. That's where you probably get your bread and butter. I'm not saying you can't make money in it. It's just not the spreads are going to be thin, and it's all about numbers. Yep. You got to get a lot of doors to really make it make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, a high-rise building, it's pretty interesting, and it really teaches you a lot, because when I got into that business, I was literally working at a bank, and a guy from Boston down in Tampa said, "You want a job in property management?" and just threw me in with the wolves. 16 properties trying to manage.
Did you move down there?
I moved down there in 07. 04 to 07, right after college. I was like, you know what, I need a change in life.
Yeah.
I've been in this cold, crappy weather forever.
Yep.
Get me down to Tampa. And I think I started about 05 was in the property, but honestly, I loved it. Trial by fire, but it was like, hey, you know what you have to do now? You have to manage this big asset. So I had to learn insurance, financials, how to create budgets, how to manage vendors, how to put contracts in place. It was
on a commercial level.
Yeah, and
it
was really interesting, honestly. It was something that really showed that I was like, wait a second, I didn't know much about real estate up until then, and I was like, I'm interested in real estate.
Yep.
Once I started doing that, I had a fire for it. And one of my goals, I was 25 at the time, one of my goals was to be vice president of a company, different mindset back then.
Yep.
Of a company. And then when I got into property management, I realized very quickly that...
Be vice president of your own company.
Exactly. Why not just open up my own company? It took me about 15 years to figure that part out.
Start an LLC. I'm vice president.
Screw it, I'm president.
I'll even be president.
But no, honestly, it was really cool. It was, I just learned by fire, put a lot of good systems in place, and that's where I really learned. My dad taught me this: treat people well. Doesn't matter who it is, just treat everybody with respect. And it's the same thing when you're doing that management.
For sure.
With your contractors, you respect them. Your accountants, you respect them, because they're all part of your team. And that's one thing my dad instilled in me that I just love to this day is like, if you treat people with respect and you don't think you're above them just because you're in a different section of your life, like, that's huge.
Dude, that's the definition of character. How you treat people when they cannot do anything for you. Like, that's what defines your character. And I remember working in rough parts of the hood early in my career, and I would go in and I'd talk to the neighbors, and and dude, these are people living in a $500 a month apartment or a $500 a month house, and it's falling over, and dude, they couldn't do anything. And I would say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Here's what we're looking to do, ma'am. And dude, by showing them respect, where typically they don't have respect, all of a sudden, we're on the same side of the table, right?
Yep.
We're working towards a common goal. You're building the rapport that way. Dude, all you got to do is show good respect to people, and all of a sudden, like, anything that you want to work with them on and accomplish, like, you show them respect, they'll at least be amenable to hearing what you got to say.
Oh my God!
Versus going after the clash of like, I'm better than you. Dude, then it's an FU, combative type of a setting, and that never progresses with anybody.
Well, and it's not to mention, like, they need you now, so that's great. You could treat them like crap. The moment you need them, you think they're going to respond?
Dude.
They're not coming out to take care of you on an issue or eating a little bit of a contract price because you made a mistake and you need a little help on their side.
Yep.
So I found a lot of value there. But you just, it's one of the steps. It's one of the things I've learned there was just
for sure
the value of people, the value of relationships. But it really helped get me to where I am today, that property management side, because you could take that large scale HOA, and I do a lot of single family right now, but you could institute a lot of those same philosophies to pretty much anything you do in real estate. Whether you're flipping homes, you're buying single family residential, you're buying multifamily, it really helps there as well.
Dude, if you can do the property management side, the operational side is way harder than finding the money and finding the deals, right? So, we see it all over social media. Oh, hey, I just took down this deal. I want to see if you can keep it, right? Because anybody can buy a deal, and all these folks think it's so easy to just raise the money, find the deal, close on it. Dude, the work doesn't even begin to start until you actually close on it. The operational side is completely different than just raising the money and working your ass off for 60 to 90 days to find the deal, raise the money on it, close the financing, and then take it down, man. The operational side, that is what's going to be a real differentiator, I think, over the next couple of years, based on people who took down deals who are not qualified, people who took down deals who are qualified to operate and manage them. I think it's a game changer. So you getting that experience, man, puts you head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, and I got to tell you too, and that's all about the building of the team. I mean, that's you can go, like you said, go get the deal. Can you manage it? Can you operate it? Can you make sure it works? If you can't, just find the right person who can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so key. And no, I mean, that's where I've learned. I mean, I've worked.
How would you find good quality operators, operating partners, and screen them where they know what the hell they're doing? Where they're not just the guru on social media, where you know that they're proven and they can do the actual work. Like, how would you screen somebody on that front?
Ooh, that is a tough one.
What characteristics, I guess, would you look for in somebody that you're going to go and bring money to their deal?
Oh, so in that case, I mean, I want someone that's somewhat of a proven track record to some degree. Whether it has been in, if I'm going to go like kind of invest in your deal in a syndication or someone's syndication, I want to see that they at least have some sort of a proven track record. What their team in place, how they go about the operations of it.
Do they have systems, right?
Yes, yeah. Do they have systems, what they've done in the past, and not only do they have systems, do they follow the systems? Do they actually stick to it? Do they have a good team in place that can, that someone that does the acquisition, someone that does the operations, or is it the same operator that's going out and selling, same person that's going out raising money, or do you have those kind of roles separated in an organization? That's what I want to see, and if someone's proven track record that they can do that, that they can operate like that. I mean, I've invested in 4 syndications right now, and one of yours, and like you're proven, and the other company is proven, and like that's important because you need to have trust that they're gonna take care of your money.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, again, like I've seen, people pounding their chest about how many doors that they've acquired over the past 12 to 24 months, and it could be in the thousands. But dude, you haven't taken a single deal full cycle. Right? You haven't been through shit storms. You haven't been through, horrible economic conditions or anything. Like, you've only taken these things down, and it's been really easy to take things down because money is everywhere right now. And if you're willing to, if you got access to easy money, chances are, dude, anybody can look at a deal and underwrite it and then adjust the numbers in a way to make the numbers work, right? If you're underwriting an apartment building and it rents for $700 to $800 a month, you get 2 very different financials by underwriting it with $700 a month in average rents versus $800 a month in average rents. To the tune of, let's call it a 100-unit apartment building. At $100 a month times 12 months is $120,000 of income. That's not just top line. That essentially goes straight to the bottom line, right? So divide that by a 6% cap rate, changes the value of the building by $2 million. So it's pretty easy to underwrite it and say, hey, I think I can get $800 a month. Or maybe none of the investors are going to bat an eye if I say $825 a month and I get $2.5 million of additional value, right? And that can really make the numbers look good. If you're not looking at the deal, looking at the average rents, and taking a serious deep dive into the financials and how they're being underwritten, dude, I can totally see how it's very easy to raise money. We try to kill deals. We use very conservative rents. I don't really get questioned that often by my investors of, you really think that you can hit this, right? Because we show all the comparables, and we show that we lean towards probably we don't go to the very bottom, but we probably go to the bottom quarter of where rents can be achieved. So we'll go at 725 instead of 800 or something in that kind of scenario. 725 to 750 depending on our building, the size of our building, the finishes that we're going to put in, and all that stuff. But we know that it's potential it could hit 800. And guess what? That's additional gravy on top for the investors.
I think that's important. You made a good point. Like underwriting, you got to trust that underwriter, because if you're not underwriting it conservatively, you're right. That IRR that you just said that they're going to receive gets cut in half.
But I've also seen, it can really hurt deals, right? And if you underwrite it at only $700 a month in rent, nobody's interested. Nobody's interested in a 9% IRR or whatever. And so there's a very delicate balance, and I think a lot of people push it a little bit too heavy towards getting a deal done because they're so anxious to do their first deal. And I promise you, I've done good deals, I've done shitty deals, and one shitty deal can erase all the profits of 5 good deals. And so you got to be careful with that. It's not worth forcing a deal. It's not worth it, dude. Just pass from that deal. There will always be other deals, and focus on the ones that the underwriting makes sense. If you can't kill it, that's when you know it's a good deal.
I operate the same way, and I understand multifamily to the single family side, but I wear a few different hats, and one of the hats is we flip some properties just to get that, I know you used to do it for a while. It's just to get that income going so that we could build the rest of the business. And one of the biggest things I talk to my operations guy is exactly what you just said. Hey, here's the formula, kill that deal. If that deal can't get killed, then put the offer on it, let's go lock it up. But let's try not to, because the worst thing you can do, and I've done it before, you either win or you learn, right? And on this specific occasion, I forced a deal and ended up losing about $7,500. Not too bad when you're talking about a flip, but one little mistake and not seeing one little thing cost $7,500 on one deal. Now it could have been $30,000 or $40,000.
And think about it, man. You thought you were going to make $40,000 on it, and instead you ended up losing $7,000. So thank God you did at least underwrite it well enough where you didn't lose that $40,000 of profit and another $40,000. But overall, man, that's a $50,000 swing versus what you thought you were going to bring in versus not. Now imagine multiplying that by $10 million. You're talking where if you don't have other deals and don't have other income or don't have other equity somewhere else and value somewhere else, balance sheet wealth somewhere else to offset some of that, dude, it's not worth it doing a bad deal, especially on your first one.
No, absolutely. That's why even on your first one, like you said, I mean, you bring in the right people. You make sure that like maybe on your first one, maybe you go talk to a Tim or something. You say, hey, listen, I found this deal. I haven't done one before. Why don't we just team up together?
Yep.
You can both kind of partner on it, figure out a way to make it work so that you make sure you're succeering. I see too many people need to go it alone.
It's an insurance policy.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, it's like, hey, how do I not screw up this deal? Hey, by partnering with somebody who's done thousands of them before.
Yep.
It's definitely, it's a smart way. So many people focus on this deal specifically instead of looking down the road of like what this deal sets me up for. I never tried to get rich off of one deal.
Yep.
I was always looking at like, if I do this deal, it sets me up for the next 10, 20, 50 deals,
Do you end up doing that? Actually, do you end up having a lot of people come to you with a deal and say, hey, do you mind helping me out with this one to make sure that...
Yeah, typically though, they're forcing the deal.
Okay.
So I've had some backlash because like my thought process is like, let me go and partner with people on deals that they couldn't take down. And then somebody brings me an opportunity and it's a shitty deal. And they're like, oh, we should take this down. Can you bring the money for this? I'm like, dude, that's a shitty deal. You're not underwriting it properly. You need to look at this, 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 and this. And then they get mad because we don't go and take down a bad deal. You know what I mean? So you got to be, but I'm like, listen, I'm not going to let you do a bad deal. If I let you do a bad deal, you're never going to do another one in your entire life, and you're going to blame it on me while you have a job for the next 40 years. Instead of, let's focus on finding a great new opportunity. That's way better and a lot easier to find a new opportunity than to muscle through a shitty deal for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
It's hard, man. It could be longer, way longer than that. So I would much rather see you walk away from that and then focus on something new. But let's keep going with your story. I apologize.
No worries. Yeah, so down in Tampa, doing the high rises, I started doing budgets for Pulte, a developer.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool. They'd have some new developments. I put the budget together for it, so now I'm doing new build budgets, which was interesting, unique, trying to figure out
looking at the value of the land.
Yep.
And being able, because they take raw land, put in new infrastructure,
correct.
and then they build single-family homes, right? That's fascinating. What were a couple things that maybe you don't think about that really popped up quite a bit on that?
These were more, so the ones I was doing the budgets for weren't single family. They were actually building like groups of condominiums or townhomes in a community, but they were like box buildings. So maybe 30 units here, 30 units there, 30 units here. So it was more of, they've already had the land, they already were building the buildings. It was just putting together correct budgets on there. Like how much management staff do you need in a building that has, 180 units? What's your landscaping budget look like? Bidding out cleaners, making sure you have the proper insurances, and then also other staff. Like you might have on-site staff at that point. So,
do you see these big companies kind of? This happened to me on a deal down in Florida, one of my vacation rentals that I bought down there. You come in, you buy it, and they're like the HOA dues are only here.
Yep.
And then after a year, or as soon as it's filled up, dude, they fucking jacked it up. It was like they added 80% on HOA dues like that. As soon as the thing was built out. And so, is that commonplace where they do that?
It's so common. So what they'll do is they'll do the bare minimum budget.
Some of these biggest companies are the biggest scumbags I've ever seen.
Yep. They'll do the most bare minimum budget. You put something together. Hey, this is how you need to operate properly. You say, nah, we're gonna operate here, and then they also subsidize it. So they'll keep that looking low, and then all of a sudden, you're right. When that transitions from the developer being in control to the owners being in control, you look and you're like, wait, we can't continue on this path. Like this just doesn't work.
Yep.
And
I've seen that on
all the time.
On the turnkey rental side, people would sell a house and say, dude, such slimy shit. They'd sell a house in Cleveland, Ohio back in 2015, 16, 17, kind of when the market was just starting to heat up again. And they say, oh yeah, this house rents for $1,000 a month. And they'd sell it to somebody out of Tampa, right? Or somebody out of California, or somebody out of New York, or somebody out of Israel, or somebody out of Australia. And they say this house rents for $1,000 a month. When you and I would look at it and be like, dude, this thing would never rent for more than $700 a month. But what they do is they float the other $3,000 or $300 a month. Over a year, it's only $3,600. But $3,600, again, at a, let's call it an 8 cap, which was gets them an extra $45,000 in sales price. So they would take $3,600 out of that $45,000 because they could rip an extra 40 G's net out of their pocket, and they'd float it for 12 months, maybe even 24 months, until they sucked all the cash out of that investor, and then they stopped subsidizing it, and that investor stuck with a house they paid $90,000 for that's really, or They paid $130,000 for it, and it's really only worth $90,000.
How do you even get away with that? I've never even heard of that. That's so shitty.
You deserve to be in fucking jail. And that same exact thing happens with these billion-dollar developers. They're scumbags, man. I've heard the stories over and over and over again, to the point where, like, I own some land south of Charleston. They're big developers trying to come in and buy the land. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing a deal with you because you're a scumbag. Because I know exactly how this turns out. It's like, you ever met anybody who sold their company to like a private equity firm?
No, I have not yet.
Standard operating procedure. Private equity firms. They'll come in, say, hey, I'm going to give you 50% of your money right now, and the other 50% is earned in a payout over the next 3 years. Okay? If you do these things. If you don't do those things specifically, and they have attorneys, teams of attorneys that write certain minutia in that know that they can pin you for it and not have to pay out the other half of your money. So I'm looking at, I'm developing a couple software businesses and stuff right now. Hopefully either take them IPO or sell it to private equity. I will not do a prolonged payout. I'll take 80% now and get all my money on the table versus 50% now, 50% later, and make way more money on paper, dude. It's not worth it. So,
that makes
dude, you see it over and over and over again. It's unfortunate that that's how some of these larger corporations work, man. But dude, they just have zero integrity whatsoever.
But it's unfair to the people too, because like, take away the investor standpoint. You're buying a condominium in this place, and you're like, oh, the fees are $200 a month. I can do this. I can survive all this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the realistic number is $600 a month. Now, you and I may just get aggravated, but pay it. There are some people that puts them under.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they just stretch themselves thin. So it's like, there's the way to make money, and then there's the right thing to do.
And the value of the condominium reduces in value because there's only so much buying power. It's somebody who's buying based on payments, right? If they're spending X number of dollars towards principal, X number of dollars towards interest, it's the same reason. When interest rates go up, prices come down because more of that monthly payment goes towards interest than principal paid out. Same thing happens with HOAs, where as that increases, that's another expense. So they can't pay as much for the dollar value of the condominium. So dude, when somebody else comes in there to go and buy that, if you can't afford that extra $400 a month, somebody else isn't going to pay that up some sort of premium or pay as much as you did. So now you're underwater on a deal, man. It happens over and over and over again.
And people don't realize that HOA fee actually could be second lien position, and then you could foreclose off of not paying an HOA fee.
It's wild.
People may not know that, but you could be paying your mortgage and be like, I just can't afford the fee, and then boom, you get foreclosed on.
Yep.
I mean, it's happened. I've seen it happen. Not super often, because usually it's small enough that someone pays that gap off. And a lot of those people, usually when you're buying a condominium, it's probably your first place you're buying, or you're just older and you don't want to deal with stuff.
Yep.
So they are stretched thin. It's probably, unless you're on a beach somewhere, an absolutely amazing location, you're just like, I'll take a condo because I love the location. But no, it's interesting at least learning that side of it. Kind of like you're managing a complex that's been there since the 1960s, and it has a lot of CapEx needed, versus something that's brand new and you don't need to build up your reserves as quickly, but it's more of the operational side of things. So it's really helped get me to where I am today on the business side of things.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today. What do you have going on now?
So right now, we are super exciting. So last August, I decided to go big because shout out to Kelly Garrett, she's my coach.
Yep.
And she just gave me that I don't know, like that understanding that I can do something, like dream big, bring big goals into place. And last year I had a huge goal. I hit it in July, and I just upped that and ended up just crushing my goal. And at that point, she really helped me build my brand as a business.
Yeah.
Brought in an operational guy. He's been doing an amazing job. Last August, just hired a full-time admin, and now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna build out Rivers Capital Group, me as a company. So we do real estate sales. It's my bread and butter. Majority of my business is real estate sales. The brokerage side, love it. Retail, on some investors. We do some fix and flips now. Our goal is we have dollar amount goals. I don't necessarily like to do a number of homes sold because who cares? If you could all of them make $5,000, I'd rather do two that make $30,000 each.
It's easier to quantify doors and number of houses and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, I know people in San Diego who do 15 houses a year and they clear $150,000 per house. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Versus people in Cleveland, Ohio, like me, I was doing 80 to 100 houses a year, but I clear $7,000 a house.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a very big difference. They're actually working way smarter than I was. But
Well, and
one
your
of
risk,
those
like-
deals doesn't happen, makes a bigger hit to them versus a deal not happening for me. But dude, you got to pay attention to that stuff, man, because everybody's going to use guru numbers, you know.
Yep.
Say, hey, I bought 80 houses, but I also sold 80 houses, so I really did 160 deals. No, you didn't, dude.
No, I got that's where humility comes into play, man.
Yeah.
Be okay with, like, you're chasing your goals and then trying to be better the next year. Like, I don't need to be a Tim Bratz.
Yep.
I don't need to be I respect that. You motivate me. People like that motivate me, but I'm me, and I'm gonna stay in my lane and hit my goals, because that's where I see people messing up.
Yeah.
They all want to be like, hey, I own 3,000 doors, and like you said, yeah, if they're all negatively cash flowing,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it doesn't
good
matter.
for you. I don't want to be invested in you. I'd rather own 500 doors and I'll be cash flowing a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
So that's how my mindset works. That's how I build my board up, to say, hey, here's our financial goals. How are we going to hit these as fast as we can with the least amount of work?
Yep. I love that, man. Not taking anything for surface value, right? Really understanding it, and then at the same time, focusing on the dollar amount is what's going to give you the lifestyle that you're looking for,
Exactly.
versus just number of doors, which is an ego trip.
Yeah, and that's my business partner. So I have a certain business partner that we buy and holds. And what we're doing is we're restructuring. We're selling one of our rentals just because we could pay down loans on the other one and just cash flow just as well with less leverage.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? Let's just build up our cash. Great cash flow. We're still hitting our goals, but we just do it the right way. We invest a little bit of money in syndications, but that's one branch. I do a little bit of, like, off-market marketing just to try to find deals, because right now in this market, it's not easy to get deals,
Yeah.
so we got to go get our own. And then honestly, the one thing besides my daughter, that 4.5 months old, just had a baby, so
That's awesome,
that's one of my big whys. Besides her, one of the other biggest things going on in my life right now is I had a vision last year, and I was like, you know what? We have so many smart people, great people around here in Charleston. Investor mindset, just good people. Why don't we get them all in one building and just brainstorm and just mastermind and just talk $1 million conversations?
Yep.
My business partner said, why stop with an M? No,
Yeah.
$1 billion conversations.
I
I
love
love it. So just closed on an office warehouse with a couple partners, and the office space is going to be specific people that are going to be in that building.
Yep.
And it's going to be awesome. We're going to structure it in a way that, like, we get to have these big conversations of, hey, how do we make more money? How do we grow? How do we diversify? How do we help each other out, add value? Like, how do I give you value? How do you give someone else value? And at the same time, have fun with it. So that's a cool project that just went underway last week. So
Love it, man.
excited for that
You guys
one.
already took it down, right?
Yep, last Tuesday.
Love it.
Yep.
And I might be utilizing some space. We're talking about
Yeah.
that off camera.
We'll love that, yeah.
No, it's cool. And the partners are doing big things, and everybody's doing some, like, it's a sleeper, or kind of under the radar. I wouldn't say sleeper. It's kind of like under the radar how many players are in this market.
Oh, yeah.
In the Charleston market, and big names. Some of the biggest marketing names on info marketing that I know in the entire country are out of Charleston. Some of the biggest investors that I know have moved to Charleston, just from a lifestyle, even though they're still doing deals elsewhere. And then a lot of people who are in Charleston. Like, there's a lot. It's a very entrepreneurial town,
Oh, absolutely.
which is really cool to see, and it's cool and it's fun to collaborate, right? And there's enough big stuff. Like, I drive down in Cleveland, and not that I get excited about cars or anything like that, but it's all the same, beat up, shitty cars, covered with salt, covered with snow, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, come down to Charleston, and there's, like, nice cars all over, right? Or up in Cleveland, it's like beat up, shitty homes. Nobody takes care of them. They're all, rusted out, or like lawns are overgrown, like all that. And you come down here and you're like, oh wow, everybody takes care of their stuff down here. It's in good shape and really nice buildings and and it's just like, I don't know. To me, it's like, it's just inspiring to see when you come to a market like Charleston of, like, what's possible, right? What the potential is. And I think whenever I go back to Cleveland, I get kind of like in this lull of being comfortable and of like, it's just, I like being down here, man. It really inspires me to do some cool stuff, and obviously it's a great town anyways, but.
Well, and the groups here are, like, when I came down here, I wasn't, like I told you, I was a corporate mindset, I was move up, be successful in that way. I came down here, and my wife and I moved here in March of 18, and I asked her, I said, do you mind if I go for it? I'm gonna go get my real estate license. I just wanna sell and, like, see what I can do, see what I can actually do for once in my life. And she's so supportive, awesome woman. She's like, go for it. So by May of 18, I started doing real estate, and it took me until about October, November. I met Troy, and I started getting in the investor groups. And then that's when I was like, holy crap, this is a whole different world. I mean, I grew up in a middle-class family. I appreciate it. My parents are awesome. They worked hard, but I never knew the other side of things.
Yeah.
The business ownership, the financial literacy, the financial freedom part of it. And when I came down to Charleston, I started just going to breakfast meetups. And that's how I met like Kelly and Danny and different people around here. And then before you know it, now we've grown REI Central is 130 people were there last month. I mean, the investor network down here is amazing, and people just want to grow and learn. And like you said, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people helping each other add value. It's not,
and it's not a tire kicker REI, right? It's not
exactly.
Like I don't know if you've ever been at any REI events in other cities, but 95% of the people are tire kickers, and there's a handful in the back of the room that are actually out there doing deals. Dude, you go to the REI here, which isn't called a REI, it's called REI Central, right? But like, I don't know. I'd say it's completely flip-flopped. I'd say 80 to 90% of the people are actually out there doing deals, crushing it in business, or having success in some capacity or another, making real money, doing with real businesses. And then there's 10 to 20% that are working on kind of getting involved somehow. But dude, it's a very impressive group for what it is. So not only is it a big group, but it's a high caliber group, you know?
And it gets you motivated, man. That's how I got. Like, I didn't realize I wanted to do investing until I get in that room. And then when you're in that room, you're like, holy crap, I want the next room. I want the next room. And it's just like that trickle effect. And it gets you super excited to just be a part of it. And like, I'm so excited where I am at today, and I attribute a lot of it to the people that I've met down here in Charleston.
For sure, man. So what does the business look like over the next, let's call it 24 months for you? Like, what are some of your goals? What are some of your ambitions? And what are you putting in place in order to achieve those?
So I would say the first step is put the team in place and get those operational systematically. Just make sure I kind of step away. So I'm doing about 10 to 20% of that retail, flipping, assignment off market stuff. I want to be involved in it enough high level, talk to my ops guy, but then be able to step away and let them just run with that side of things. And then actually, this is really brand new. I haven't really mentioned too much of it yet because we're trying to work out the kinks, but just went into partnership on something called Gap Capital LLC, where we're doing gap funding on fix and flips or people who need, so you go and you get a hard money loan for that 70 to 75%. Well, a lot of people need that other 5 or 10% for cash flow purposes. We'll go and lend in that second lien position on that to help with that cash flow part. So I'm getting into that business venture. We'll see where that takes off to. I've also started taking some courses on business buying to start leveling up and start playing, add that extra zero and just start playing with the, those, I don't know exactly what yet, but figure out a way to purchase some businesses or just bigger deals, bigger commercial deals. I love the multifamily industry. I invest in a lot of it passively, and I could see myself getting into that as well, but it's kind of, those are probably, my main focus is just to be able to bounce those $1 million ideas off people and then figure out where can I add value, what clicks, and then run with it. So,
do you, you got some good stuff going on. How are you making sure that you're staying focused and you're not getting spread too thin?
That's a good question. I actually thought about that last week, where that possibly could be the case. I was starting to sit back and say, okay, let's go look at that board. Where are we making, let's just say $1 million goal, doesn't really matter. Let's look at that board. Where's the bread and butter of that? Where's that smallest piece of that? And then start to really look at it and be like, do I have to take away that smallest piece? Am I thinking of too many things at once?
Right.
Because that's a really hard question because they're kind of all intertwined right now. If we go off market, maybe we don't make a ton of money on those off market deals, but it brings deals to the retail side. It brings deal to the flip side, and all of a sudden we're making money on the flip because we found it off market. So I think the biggest thing is leaning on my coach to really help her guide me on putting the right team in place so that maybe I have to add one more piece of that puzzle so that I can step away. Right now I have 2 pieces, maybe there's a third one needed, or maybe I have to adjust and find a different person that. So I guess right now that's what I am doing, trying to fine tune that because I'm not quite there. I understand I'm doing well, but I'm like 70% there. I need to get that extra little tuning down to make sure it's operational.
Well, dude, I see. Early on, I wanted all these different businesses, right? Then I realized, like, damn, I'm getting spread way too thin. Let me just focus on 1 or 2 that are really making me the money, which was the investment side. So I got rid of the brokerage. I got rid of my real estate license. I got rid of my management company. I got rid of the idea of having a construction company. I got rid of like all that stuff and just focused on raising money and doing deals and operating those deals. And so like I've seen how thin I got spread and wasn't making any money when I was a serial entrepreneur, right? And then, but then I reached a point where I knew how to put people in place and how to operate with human capital. And I reached a point where I knew how to hire the right person to put the right systems in place and implement those systems and measure those systems, right? And so I know some people who are serial entrepreneurs and can do that, like, you know, Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and all these, Elon Musk, right? They're able to go in and because they understand business fundamentals and how to build a business and how to deploy capital and hire the right people, where they don't have to be the one running the business, right? But my buddy Mark Evans is really, really good at that, you know. But he knows how to really put the right people and build the right organization. And I see some people who are earlier on and see guys like him thinking that they can just start all these different businesses and be successful across all of them. And I was one of them. And all of a sudden I was spread so thin that I wasn't making money on any of them. Right? And then I had to consolidate. So I just asked because I think a lot of people, you know, potentially watching this are seeing all the different opportunities that you have. But they need to realize that you have certain joint venture partners and operators in each one of them. And even though you have people still, you know, captaining the ship, you're still like, you know what, maybe I should just focus, right? Maybe I should just focus on one or two. And dude, it only gets more and more difficult because there's a lot of great opportunities to every single day. I get messages about it all the time. And I'm like, no, what is the one that really moves the needle? You know, it's cool to make an extra $1 million a year, but like, how can you make an extra 20 million a year? How can you make an extra 50 million a year? How can you make an extra 100 million a year? And like, if it doesn't meet that threshold, that's a quick no for me, you know? So the business stuff is pretty intriguing, you know? And that's one of the things that we've been looking at too, is potentially flipping businesses. But then I started looking at other businesses and I started, you know, there's a lot of gurus out there who are teaching people how to flip businesses right now. And I've listened to a couple of them talk and I'm like, dude, I want nothing to do with going and learning how to flip new businesses, right? In other industries that I have to learn and become an expert on those. So then I thought, how can I benefit from that still being in real estate? Like, what are the real estate businesses that I can take and slam on and leverage and then scale and sell those for $100 million or more? So I'm looking at different opportunities like in prop tech, in software that align with real estate. That are only 1 degree away from what I'm already doing and what I'm an expert at and what I'm seen and perceived as an authority. You know what I mean? So I would just, you know, take a look at a couple different angles of things like that. How can you make all these different things align and work into what you're already doing or amplify what you're already doing? You know what I mean?
And that was kind of my thought of like, when you sit in a room and you got all these millionaire minds, you know, you start throwing these ideas out there. Some of them are going to stick good, and some of them are going to, some of them might get kicked out though. It's like, or maybe someone's like, hey, I've been thinking the same thing, and they could be the operator of that, and you're just a small piece of it. So I'm okay with all that stuff. I guess it just was really quick. I went from just betting on myself, not making much, to starting to get successful, to starting a few different companies and bringing on a team. And I'm trying to get to that next level, and being around people like you and other people who are there, it's nice to talk to, because you're right. I may be spreading myself too thin. I may not be doing the right things to really achieve that end goal, but I'm just trying and testing the waters and see like what that piece is. And I'm not afraid to, I'm a calculated risk taker is how I like to call myself. So like, I'm never afraid to take a risk as long as it's calculated and it makes sense. So. But you're absolutely right. That's why I'm trying to sit back a little bit and say, hey, let me really watch how things operate. Should I nix some things? Should I stay focused on everything? Should I just bring in more help and more team members? Should I don't have that answer yet. That's something I'm working on.
Well, I think there's one of those like Benjamin Franklin, you know, Venn diagram things, right? Like, or not even a Venn diagram. It's just like a chart. What are all the benefits of this business? What are all the downsides of it? How much money can I make over here versus this one, right? And which one can make the most money? Which one is the most lucrative? Which one is the easiest to then scale, you know? And which one's the most fun? I think that whole fun factor is something that a lot of people neglect to take into consideration, right? They're just chasing the almighty dollar all the time. And dude, I would rather have fun making money than not have fun and make even more money. And I think, you know, there's something called an ELF business. Easy, lucrative, fun. How can I make what are the elf businesses that align with what I'm already doing, that are easy, that are lucrative, and they're fun, and they're only, again, 1 degree away from what I'm already doing, that I can scale and really push the limits on. So
I love that.
If you look at it that way, you're going to be always calculating the lowest barrier to entry, the most money-making potential and opportunity, and something that's going to be fulfilling that you're going to enjoy doing while you're building it all out. Dude, you got those 3 factors, man, like that's a recipe for success if I've ever seen one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's, as I get older, I'm 41 now. You know, when you're in your 30s, it probably is all about the money you're doing. That fun thing is really important to me. Because you don't know how long you got on this earth.
Man. Yeah. Having a baby was a big game changer for me. You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing having her at home, and it's like, I want her to be a part of, as she grows older, a part of what I'm doing, to whatever degree she wants to. But if I'm not having fun, I don't want to be that miserable dad that goes home. Just, who cares, at the end of the day, who cares how much money you make? If you live the life that you're happy with, I'd rather, like you just said, make less money and be happy than make more money and be that miserable person to come home, so I can have a $100,000 car in my driveway instead of a 50? It's not going to bring me any extra joy.
It doesn't move the needle, man.
Yeah, it doesn't
move the needle.
No, I'm with you on that.
Well, that's great, man. So what is your biggest bottleneck that you would say going on in your businesses today?
I'd say really fine-tuning the systems. I think that's what it is. It's we have systems in place. I have some people in place, but I need to fine-tune them to such a degree that I could really analyze accurate KPIs to make sure that we're operating as efficiently as possible. And that's where my ADHD comes in. It's hard for me to do, so I have to hyper-focus and bring help in to get me to that level.
I mean, I think,
I don't know what your advice is on that.
I think, for us early on, everybody talks about systems. Like, what does that even friggin' mean? I remember sitting back and being like, dude, my mind is just spinning. I can't figure this out. I see people with big businesses. I'm being pulled in all different directions all the time. What does systems mean? I think on the simplest level, it's process maps and checklists. Okay? So once you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and you just move around the process map and you process and document everything. And then checklist, right? Hey, if we're gonna make a house rent ready, here's the friggin' rent ready checklist. And you keep on adding to it, the more times you learn. And you mess up. And here's the checklist before you put a contract in place. All the things that we gotta double check and verify. Boom, 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 all done, right? Before we put it on the market, here's all the things we gotta check. Dude, checklists are a game changer. And that's something that's very simple and implementable that I think, you hear systems and processes and procedures and all this other shit. It seems too complex, and you need a software system in order to just follow that. Just do a simple checklist for every single role, and that is going to allow you to then hand that job off to somebody else, and then let them take that and run with it, knowing that they might not do it 100% as well as you are, but they're going to do it 85 to 90% as well, just because they have that checklist in place. And as long as they check every single box, dude, you're in pretty good shape, And them doing it at 90% is much better than you doing it at 100%. Because that way you can go and focus on some other stuff. So I think that's a big thing. Metrics, right? Like understanding and looking at every single role and realizing if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So you need a metric in place of how do you manage this. It's a KPI, key performance indicator. So if this is the role, and they're in sales, that's an easy one to quantify. And say, hey, they're doing, I want them to close 2 deals a month. We can't really force the number of deals they close per month because there's a lot of variables that are outside of our control, right? Title issues, seller being a psycho, insurance popping up, inspections that when you go into, so your salesperson shouldn't be held to that. That could be their goal, but the reality is, what is the controllable that they can measure? And that's really how many offers do you make? How many offers are you making? And eventually they make enough offers where then a ratio occurs. A ratio appears and says, hey, if I make 100 offers a week, I'm gonna get 3 deals. All right, great, we wanna do 6 deals next week. Then you should make 200 offers, right? And all of a sudden they get a little bit better and they do 200 offers and they do 7 deals, right? And so now it's more predictable as you have those KPIs in place on how to build your business. So that way you don't have these ebbs and flows and feasts and famine cycles, right? And highs and lows of deal flow and making money and not making money and all that stuff. So that's stressful. But once you have standard KPIs in place, dude, it's much easier to manage the business.
Yeah, it's funny. That's something I hear over and over again, and that's something my mind doesn't work that way, so I'm starting to shift it so it does. And we're starting to figure out ways one of the software programs that we use for the CRM, I actually customize it to take away things, to make it more, here's the bottom line things we need to do.
Yep.
X, Y, and Z. And then makes it easier for people. This is what you do, make sure you follow it, and now we can track it with KPIs. And it's funny that you said checklist. Literally sat down the other day for 2 hours and just I said, what are the major things that we do on a daily basis? And we just did all those checklists.
Yep.
So I'm glad you said that, because that's what we just started to do.
And every job can have its own checklist, right? Of daily activities, weekly activities, monthly activities that they need to be checking the box on, or on a variable basis of each house or each rental or each, make ready or whatever it is.
Yep.
Different checklists in place. And that's a simple way to start putting systems in place, right? You just start working on checklists and then understanding what the most important activities that role can be performing. And dude, it's really not 15 activities, dude. It's usually it could be 1 to 5 activities.
Okay.
I would try to stick to under 3 metrics that you want to measure, right? Because otherwise they start focusing on other shit. On things that don't really move the needle as much as what this moves the needle. I got a property manager who's like, oh, we need new gates at the front. I said, no, you need more friggin' open houses. How about more open houses? And more open houses leads to more renters being exposed to our units, which means more rental applications, which means more accepted applications, which means more move-ins, which means more dollars, rental revenue, which means more in collections, which then gives us the money to go and buy a gate for the front. You don't need to focus on a friggin' gate. That's not what's stopping us from collecting revenue. It's you not hosting enough open houses. Well, Tim, hey, it's something we need. Great. How are your open houses? Great. Hey, Tim, we need to do this. Well, what are the open house numbers, right? I just keep on redirecting back to that 1, 2, 3 KPIs, and those activities that actually move the needle. And when we focus on that, everything else falls into place, dude.
Wow, I love that. So I'm just going to what I'm probably going to do then is go back, take a look at it and say, okay, this guy, what are the 3 things that make us the most money? I'm assuming most money-making activities. Yeah. And I guess I'll just hone in on that every day, just talk to him about those 3 things. Yeah. Something I never really heard. I mean, it makes sense. It's easy to have 30 things going on your plate.
Yeah,
but
always.
To really hone in on those few things that make money, I appreciate that.
High priority activities, man. That we gotta be dialed in on. So
that's awesome.
No, dude, it's good stuff, man. I love what you got going on. I love what you're working on right now. I love that new project. I think that's going to create such a good ecosystem of a lot of opportunity for you guys. And it's just excited to see kind of where you're going to be, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So let's wrap with this. If there was one piece of advice that you would give somebody starting their real estate career, entrepreneurial career, whatever that looks like, what would you say is the most important thing that they could be doing or that they need to do that's going to move the needle or put them on the right trajectory for massive success and growth and achievement of their long-term goals?
I'd just say keep on being in the room. I mean, the more rooms that you're in that have to do with what your goals are, whatever that is, doesn't matter. Like if you want to be in, open up a barbershop, maybe there's barbershop entrepreneurship, or you want to be in multifamily, you want to flip homes. Just get around people who do what you want to do. Be around people who are already there. That's the easiest way to learn. Like if you're always in the room with someone who's doing it at that high level and you're paying attention and you're really learning and you're talking and you maybe go up to them and figure out a way that you can add value and offer that value for free just so you could learn. And maybe you find your first deal, offer to take a little bit of that deal just to learn. To me, that's how I became successful down here, and that's how I grew, was just kept on being in the room, and it took a while. I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know which rooms to be in, but then you go to one room, and then you hear another one, then you go to that other room, and I mean, to me, that's the fastest way to build relationships and to be successful.
Yep, dude, I agree, man. I think it's putting yourselves in the right rooms and keeping yourselves out of the wrong rooms.
Yes, that's important too.
Equally important. Stay away from the negative rooms, stay away from the naysayers, stay away from the small thinkers. focus on the progressive mindsets, the optimistic individuals, the growth-oriented, goal-oriented folks.
Yep.
If that's what you want, right? And that's going to help you just get set up for everything that you want to achieve, man. Like you cannot. It's hard to not be successful by sitting in those rooms.
Yep.
You will become inspired. You will gain access to the knowledge. You will gain access to the resources. You will gain access to the connections, right? The relationships. Everything you possibly could want or need in order to fast track your success is in the right rooms. So you got to be putting yourself in those right rooms. So,
and help you build confidence too, man. I mean, just being around that, like you said, the naysayers. If you hang around with them, they'll tell you 1,000 ways why you can't succeed. If you want to talk yourself out, go for it. You just need one way that you can succeed. If you're in that room and you get that confidence, there's no telling what you can do, and that's it's amazing. I
love it. It's that borrowed belief. You know, hey, I wasn't sure if I could do it, but if Tim's doing it, I know I can do it. Right? if he's making money, I'm gonna get rich, right? Like,
exactly.
Like it's, and then once you do it once, then you have the belief system and your confidence built up. Look, if I did it once, I could do it again.
Yep.
All right. If I did it at a small level, I could do it at a bigger level. Right. Like, I think just those little victories, like putting yourself in the right room and then just getting some small victories, some small wins, builds up so much confidence that, dude, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
You know.
And you don't have to do it alone. I mean, there's people there that if you need help, partner, ask.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Yep.
Well, dude, this has been a great conversation. I'm excited to watch you grow. I'm excited to see all the things that you accomplish and potentially rent an office from you
awesome,
at a deep discount.
Yeah.
You guys saw it right here. Right here.
No, it's great chatting with you. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, brother.
Thanks.
Awesome. Tons of great value. What a great dude. You should definitely connect with him, follow him on social media. We'll put his contact information in the notes below. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. So please put that in the comments. Give me a like if you got some value out of the video, and please subscribe so that way you're kept up to date on all the new episodes of Spill the Beans. So until next time, be your best.